So dating is unnatural. In high school and college, you're like atoms, you're just floating around in this space, this social space, and you're bumping into each other, bumping into this person, bumping into that person, and then sometimes you might bump into someone and you just form a bond. And that's essentially what happens. You don't ask them out on dates or anything like that, or you might, but it's a natural thing that happens, far more than say using dating app or social media. And so you bump into them, and all of a sudden it just works. You just all of a sudden have this relationship, this connection, this form, this bond. And then what happens? You graduate from college, you graduate from high school. If you're still together, that's great. But if you're not, you end up going out into the world and you get your own place. You move miles from your friends. You end up getting a car now. And now every single time you leave the house, you're isolated from the people around you. And then when you get to work, you're even further isolated from those past bonds and those past social relationships and those past romantic relationships that you're in. And now you're forming a whole new social structure, but that only lasts for 8 hours of a day. And even then, if the people you work with is minimum, or maybe you work alone, then that's even less time that you're having socializing. And all of a sudden, because you left, because you had to get that apartment, because you moved out of your parents' house, now you don't have that social connection to your family either. And so what happens? It's you start looking at dating and this concept of dating, which is so unnatural because, again, in social environments, you're constantly around people, there's natural bonds that just form. And for like the past 2 or 3 million years, right? This is going to get the nerdy part, but for the past 2 or 3 million years, when it comes to us as a species, it's just Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, just Homo in general, the genus Homo. We lived in groups of people on a constant basis, just 30, 40 people, maybe started off a little more, but eventually we just stuck with that bond. We formed relationships, romantic, platonic, and that was that. We just had these constant relationships that we were in. There was no dating, there was nothing. Dating is a thing that came about because of the cultural revolutions we went through, between agricultural, the industrial revolution. That's when dating became a thing. So dating is highly unnatural to just what our natural tendencies are in the first place. These natural propensities that we have towards meeting other people naturally through our social groups and social situations. But in modern design, modern cities, we're isolated. We're isolated from our friends, we're isolated from our family, we're isolated from romantic partners, and we're isolated just from society in general. You walk outside and you see cars and houses and apartments, but you don't see people. And that forces you to use dating apps. It forces you to use social media. It forces you to find different ways to socialize. And that is not what human interaction has ever been about. And it's only recently, in recent times, when things of like that sprung up. And it's only in recent times when these things have become a more commonplace thing in our vocabulary or vernacular. It's more common now. But dating is unnatural.